Now, on our 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, we have an attempted breakout. We have an attempted breakout in the daily time frame and in the 4-hour time frame. You got to have confirmation and a follow through for it to mean anything. We're stalling at the 50 here. We're stalling at the 10 period on the daily chart, and we're just below the 20 period. We're pretty much flat for the session as I'm making the video here as we've started out the Thursday session. Again, is there more work to be done in this area down here? I've drawn a trend line from these lows right here. Do we go down and go into this area? This trend line right here from this low and this low, and then we have that trend line going back further. Is there more work to be done and we end up getting rejection at the trend line and having a failed breakout and rejection at the 50 period? Here, we got above the 50 period a couple of times, but it failed and we still went down and made a lower low. Do we see something like that? We're looking for evidence that the bottom is in. I believe a bottoming process is under construction, but is it done? And that's what we're looking for clues on. You got your support zone down here. We'll be watching for clues. You know, do we roll over a little bit more and come back down into this area and then bottom out? Or was that it on the Tuesday low? We sold off and then we rebounded back up. That bottoming tail in the daily time frame. I was looking for IBIT to fill the gap. It did do that on Tuesday. We did that ever so slightly, and then we gapped higher on Wednesday. On the Tuesday session, we filled the gap, and then we gapped higher on Wednesday. And then Thursday, as we're now starting the session, Bitcoin is pretty much flat. And right now, IBIT, Bitcoin ETF, is closed for regular session hours. So again, we got the bull flag here. Again, bullish diversions developing here. Is it done? You have the same thing going on down here with the MACD. MACD's got to go back in positive territory. The RSI's got to get here above this 50 area and hold above it. Right now, we've been consistently struggling at it, and the highs have been just above that 50 area. So again, we're going to be looking for clues. We're stalling at the 50 period here with the IBIT ETF. Bitcoin is struggling at that 50 period with the 4-hour chart, almost equivalent to the 60-minute chart here. Again, don't lose sight of the big picture. The big picture is, again, this is likely that we've completed at the January low, minor wave 4. We're going to get minor wave 5. That's going to complete these 5 intermediate waves. It's going to finish our primary wave 5 there in blue. And again, you're going to get a cycle top. But Bitcoin's likely going to go up to this upper channel line, and that's probably going to be, we've taken our time getting there, going sideways, it's probably going to be close or above the 135,000 area because we've taken our time going nowhere real fast. And that has caused people to get bearish. The same people that were telling us how bullish everything was back at the December or January top, the herd gets bearish at the bottoms. The herd is super bullish at the tops, and you have to understand that. They base everything on their emotions. So again, I think you're forming a bottoming. I predicted the pullback. I think it's coming to a conclusion. Predicted both of those tops, called the day of both of those tops and the January bottom, and both of those tops in January and December. Because I have good indicators. Again, I think we get the final climax rally here, so don't lose sight of the big picture, and then I think you're going to see Bitcoin price in that recession, and again, going to get an inflation freak out with the tariffs and everything else. Now, Bitcoin's hovering here at the 100 period moving average, and that's the pink line you see right here. It's likely going to try to bottom around this area. Once it does, it is likely going to move up here above the 618 expansion, Bitcoin's average price, which we bounced off of right here. It's likely that we're either going to stall, and this is going to continue to rise. The Fibonacci, the 161 expansion, is going to continue to rise, the green line there, and we'll likely gravitate towards it to try to move up here, which is 2 standard deviations above Bitcoin's average price. Somewhere in that area, you're going to peak in all likelihood. Now, again, I don't know that we make it this high. We've already tagged this level. Oftentimes, you'll get a lower high. But once the consolidation is done, and it could be here at the 100 period moving average, I think you're going to move higher into that range right there, or maybe just under if we keep rising, just under the 1618 expansion, end up getting above it, then you have 2 standard deviations above Bitcoin's average price directly above that. So these are the target levels I'm looking at, along with Fibonacci expansions, along with the channel lines. Draw my channel in here in the daily time frame. You could see, again, this is where I think we are headed up in this area here. This is our upper channel line in this area here. We start rising, the 1618 expansion will continue to rise, and then also our 2 standard deviations above Bitcoin's average price. So we'll be watching closely these levels, the Fibonacci expansions per channel line here. But we got an accumulation signal, a couple of accumulation signals here at the January low and at the tariff sell-off low. I think that's going to end up pushing Bitcoin up to the upper channel line going forward in the coming weeks ahead. So again, over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks, I think we'll be up there. Got that deadline around April 1st, so just under 6 weeks from now. Maybe then the inflation data comes in on April 10th for the CPI. And this is leading up to a peak in late March. We're on into early April. The next coming weeks, I think you're going to see the Bitcoin top happen, the completion of the blow-off top. Support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, support the channel today. You can do that by following the link below. I don't have any sponsors. They contact me constantly. I turn it down. I don't want to sell you things. I don't want to send you into an exchange, get you all leveraged up. People just want to get you leveraged up to wipe you out. Just ask that you just partner with me and support the channel. So if you could take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. I thank you for that. Okay, Bitcoin just finished the Wednesday session moments ago, and we're just a few minutes into the Thursday session. Bitcoin did try to close above the trend line ever so slightly, and right now we're stowing at that 10-period moving average. Is what I'm going to be watching is, do we now have a breakout, or is there still more work to be done in here? Again, I told you that prices were going to come back into this area and take out lows over here to test the low right here from the tariff sell-off right here, and done that. Now, I told you we can get a higher low, and we still may come back closer to it. There still may be more work to be done. We ended up on the Wednesday session, we ended up closing by about 1%, just over 1% higher. If there's still more work to be done, we still may come in this area a little bit more into the support zone. Possible that's all she wrote. We did get a little bottoming tail there and then rebound, getting a candle of indecision in the form of a spinning top with yesterday's session. So again, I told you we were going to come down to this area and there would be buyers there. Oh, gee, what happened? We came down to this area and there were buyers there. You see the bottoming tail. Told you this is the area of buyer interest and that there would be buyers there, including yours truly. It is down a little bit more and takes out that level a little bit. Again, there's going to be buyers in this area into the support zone area. So we'll be watching. Do we get rejection off the 10 and drop back below the trend line, or do we have a breakout moving ever so slightly above the trend line with the Wednesday session? We'll be watching this closely. It wasn't a decisive break, but we did push above it just ever so slightly. So we'll be watching that. We're stowing at the 10 here right now with the close of the Wednesday session. We close on Thursday and Friday, see what happens here. Do we get rejection at that 10 period, or do we have the beginnings of a breakout here with the Wednesday session? So again, the bottoming tail there, again, there's a confluence of support here. Should we be coming back towards this trend line? I told you maybe we reach it, maybe we don't. We still have this trend line right here going all the way back to the higher low that's set up at 52,000. We have this trend line right here from the January low, and then again right here from the tariff sell-off low, and we were just above that there. So again, coming to that area right there, we were just a fraction there above that trend line right there. So again, if we go back and test this level, and sometimes trend lines can change. If it's a failed breakout, then we could draw it from the level here. Right now I'm connecting this point right here and the highs over here. we'll be watching to see what happens with this. But looking for a bottoming process to complete now with Bitcoin, as I've been talking about. I think you're going to get buyers in this area, and I think we're seeing that yet again right here. And again, these little bottoming tails over here, and the bottoming tail here and over here, and I've talked about all these bottoming tails at this level of support. So again, I'll be watching these trend lines. Should we get more volatility, got more bad news, stock market shrugged it off, but it may pull back, and Bitcoin shrugged it off as well. Two things, two pieces of news that were negative. The Fed concerned, all about the tariffs and the impact on inflation. The tariffs impact on inflation. We got the president talking about 25% tariffs on autos, pharma, and semiconductors. Market kind of just shrugged this stuff off today. We get a pullback and a sell-off with the market. We get that bottom with Bitcoin. While they have this bigger positive correlation at the moment, there's kind of a short-term decoupling. We're seeing the sell-off with Bitcoin, but yet, some pullbacks with the S&P, but now we're up testing the highs. Bitcoin's not testing the highs yet. So Bitcoin shrugging this off and going up about 1% today. The market shrugging it off. If we still get some more volatility on this short trading wave for the stock market, does that give Bitcoin a little bit more volatility or not? Bitcoin still pulling back. You got the S&P 500, now NASDAQ, making new all-time highs. Probably going to pull back, but again, the S&P is also in minor wave 5, just like Bitcoin, and they're both going to complete the blow off top. They're both doing the same exact things. There's just been the short period of decoupling at the moment. Longer term, they do have a positive correlation, the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. Again, as we're now early into this first hour of trading here, again, we're down 0.11%, and again, we're testing this 10 period. So we're going to be watching, is there more work to be done here, or do we have now another higher low, a bottoming tail, and we complete a bottom and a breakout and so forth. So going to be watching for clues. If the test of this low from the tariff sell-off and our low from the January, which is the support zone, the January low and this low right here, that's the support zone here in the more recent price action. Is that now done? You got this trend line which goes back. Let me just zoom out and show you that. This is our log scaling. And here is the trend line here, going back to the 52,000 low right here. If you connect that with this low right here, including the shadow, then again, it's pointing right up into this area. I'll be watching to see if we reach it here or not. But again, you've got the horizontal support. You got a confluence of support. You've got this little trend line right here. You've got this trend line going all the way back to 52,000. You've got the lower boundary, which we didn't quite reach with this low that we had on Tuesday. You got the lower boundary of the bullish falling wedge and the upper boundary of the bull flag. So you've got this confluence support. You've got the horizontal support coming in there. So again, we're going to be watching to see if we get a bounce off of this area, and maybe yesterday's low can hold. We'll be watching for clues. Coming back, we did yesterday. Is it done now, or is there more work to be done? Do we go and test that level again? We'll see. I've marked the buyer interest here, and again, told you that we're likely going to come down into this area and test the support zone. Our tariff sell-off low right here. I've marked that, and the January low right here, which again, I predicted the day of that bottom. Told you it was going to happen at the trend line with our linear scaling. Told you we were going to rally up ahead of Inauguration Day. And then I told you up here we peaked and we were going to pull back the day of Inauguration Day. We had our 8% rally and reversed. And I told you we were going to pull back and back test the bull flag. Everything's happened exactly as I said. Even our peak over here in December, we nailed the day of that top. Why? Because we slammed up into the trend line there in the weekly time frame. Again, it pays to watch these support and resistance levels. We hit the trend line right here at the January low in the daily time frame. Linear scaling. I look at both linear and log scaling because you can make some amazing calls if you watch those trend lines in the different scalings in both of them. Again, do we have a breakout now? That's what I'm going to be watching. but we could come deeper back into the support zone. Again, over here we did it. Here we didn't reach it. Here we didn't reach it. Here, over here we did. Here we did. Here we did. Here we came down into this area, but there's key support here. Did we just fall short of it, or is there more work to be done going a little bit lower, closer to this level, closer to the tariff sell-off low? We'll be watching closely, but I think you're going to bottom out with Bitcoin, and maybe you did that yesterday with the bottoming tail there. Again, you can get a decisive breakout, so again, there still might be more work to be done, but we'll be looking to see if we get confirmation and a follow-through if this is a breakout for Bitcoin. Right now, we're pretty much flat for the session, slightly lower. Now we're slightly higher as I'm making the video. But again, you've got this confluence of support. Here is from this low to our high. This is our 78.6 Fibonacci right here. Here we violated it with that tariff sell-off low, but then we got that bottoming tail. Here's the 78.6 Fibonacci at that 93,000 area. So again, we moved just beyond that 78.6 Fibonacci. Did that mark a bottom right there? So again, watching this closely. But I do believe, as I keep saying, a bottoming process. So even though I predicted the pullback here from this high, correctly calling the January bottom and predicting where it would bottom and predicting that rally, I told you we get a throwback here to backtest the bull flag. And even though I called this sell-off, I believe it's coming to a conclusion. We're going to come up and make new highs and take out the resistance zone, take out 109,000 up here, take out 108,000 up here, and some of these highs over in here, resistance zone, and I think you'll see new highs on Bitcoin in the not too distant future. Now, again, warned you about the pullback before it happened. Again, got some warning signs that we were putting in a short-term top as far as momentum is concerned. And again, that was correct. And then we began to see warning signs. I told you, again, when we had this low over here, these lows right here, I told you we may end up forming a divergence. Now, again, the price of Bitcoin, I told you, may not take that out, but you may get a divergence here in the more recent price action. Could be completing right now with this bottoming tail, or still under construction and not quite yet done. We're looking for clues, but again, possibly done. Regardless, whether it's done or not, Bitcoin's going higher once this pullback is done. You have signals bearish, but we're trying to flip momentum. You see the little arrow there is trying to flip right now. So is the impulse line. Now that will not be complete until the close of tomorrow. So it's trying to flip right now, momentum, but it's too early because again, you have to have it flip on a closing basis. If we sell off tomorrow, those signals could go away. But if momentum does flip back to bullish, then maybe we have that bottom in with the bottoming tail. Did we just finish the bullish divergence, or is it still under construction? Our bearish divergence over here tipped us off to the top. The bullish divergence right here tipped us off to the January bottom. Hit that trend line and other signals. Again, the trend line hit it right on the nose, and they got the bottoming tail. I called a bottom that day because we hit my target levels. And again, we've had this pullback. So I'm looking for clues to see if it's done. And again, we'll be looking over the next day or two or three here. And again, it's possible that it is done here with our bottoming tail from Tuesday. Well, the impulse line is trying to flip. We don't have that yet here with the momentum line. The momentum line is still red there. Again, we'll need to see these signals turn back to bullish if we're going to validate this as a bottom, or if there's more work to be done after that, then we'll need to validate a bottom by seeing momentum signals turn back to bullish, and then eventually the trend signals in the daily time frame turning back to bullish. If I bring it up close here, you can see where we stand. We're trying to flip the momentum, the bar reflecting momentum back to green. It's been going kind of sideways here, red to green to red, back now to green. We're trying to flip again. The momentum arrow there is trying to flip back and give us a bullish signal, and then, but right now, so far, the momentum line is not. So we'll be watching. The impulse line is trying to flip, but it's got to do it on a closing basis, and it's got to remain that way. We had a flip over here, but I told you we were still going lower. We flipped briefly with the bullish blue on the momentum line there, but then it flipped right back to red and we went lower. So is that now completing a divergence on some indicators like I just showed you with momentum? Got the sell-off I was looking for. The question is, now is it done with our bottoming tail? We got to confirm and get a follow-through. We haven't done that yet. We did get a close above the downward trend line. Then we now have to confirm and get a follow-through at the break of the trend line. We got to get a confirmation of the doji, confirmation and follow-through as well with that candle. Now, as I'm making the video here early on in the Thursday session, Bitcoin's trying to rally. We're up 0.19% now. But as it does, again, it's approaching the 20-period moving average. This is where we got rejection the last time. This is where we got rejection right here. We broke down below the 20 over here, the blue line, and then we got rejection as the 10 crossed below it, the red line. So here, the red is still, the 10 is still below the 20, and we're rallying up towards the 20 period. If we get rejection there, then there could still be more work to be done testing this low from Tuesday, and testing our tariff low, tariff sell-off low. But if we can get a close above the trend line for a follow-through and confirmation and clear breakout bar and confirm the doji bar, then again you can get back above the 20 period. Then you got a shot that the bottom is in. Again, I'm looking for a bottom here. Is it done with this bottoming tail? Very well could be. We'll be watching for clues. Looking for a bottom in this area. Told you we were going to come down lower. We did. Possible it is done now. We're also stalling at critical mass. Again, this is where we stalled before, right here and over here. So again, we got to be able to clear this level. We've got to flip the critical mass line back to blue and then be able to stay above it and gain some steam going higher. So we'll be watching to see if we get rejection here at critical mass and that 20-period moving average. Where we try now to clear these levels. Is the sell-off now done with our bottoming tail from Tuesday? If we try to bottom, we got to see everything begin to turn back to bullish. See oscillators get back into positive territory here. We've got to see Bitcoin get back above 100,000 and move back into the positive portion of the cloud. We're still in the negative portion of the cloud. I told you that if we pull back, we would likely find support here at VWAP support, as I predicted we did over here at the January low, this horizontal support area. Again, we're doing it again at the VWAP support. You still may possibly push a little bit deeper into the support area, but I do believe that we're, again, in a bottoming process, and now maybe it's done with our low from Tuesday. Certainly possible if we get a legitimate breakout of the bull flag pattern. Watching, do we sell off, get a delayed reaction to the Fed minutes and concerns about more, concerns about higher tariffs on autos and semis and pharma? We'll be watching. But again, this is the area where I think that we're going to bounce off of, just as I told you at the January low. We talked about it at the tariff sell-off low here. These are the VWAP support levels and horizontal support, and I think eventually we'll clear them, go up here, clear VWAP resistance and this overhead resistance in our 109,000 area, 108,000 area, and then I think it's off to the races. You know, and I told you, if this area broke, there wasn't much in the way of support here, you know, from our breakout point of the bull flag that we broke out of over here. I told you, I thought we'd find a bottom here at the January low, and that was a trend line on our linear scaling that I talked about. So again, I'm looking for a higher low to develop above the January low. I think we got it right here, and I think that, again, we're just getting another higher low in all likelihood. Maybe there's a little bit more work to be done, certainly possible, but it's also just as possible that we bottomed on Tuesday and we're now going to attempt to break out. We'll be watching for clues. You've got the resistance. Again, I talked about the 20-period moving average. We're just below that. I talked about the critical mass. We're right at that, and here we're right at, once again, the ribbon. And again, if we're going to see things turn back to bullish, you got to have momentum turn back to bullish, getting above the ribbon and having it flip to green and staying above it. And then we got to see the trend turn by getting above the upper boundary of the cloud right here. Again, when we had the sell-off and all the choppiness, again, we were consistently below that level, and it wasn't until we got back above it that we've had this move higher. Now, again, more choppiness. But we've got key support, horizontal support here, and the rising trend line and so forth. But here, again, we're stalling at the ribbon. We'll see if we can get above that and get a big rally, or if we have more work to be done, if we come back deeper into this area to test the tariff sell-off low there. But we did get a bottoming tail. We'll be watching for clues. Is that all she wrote? Is the bottom now in? And again, possible we test these levels a little bit more and go deeper, closer into the support zone and closer into this low here and this low here for our support zone, which is directly below. We'll be watching for clues, but right now we're coming up again to distance levels, and we're right at the ribbon right there. I clear it if we're going back to a bullish phase. Now, while we're trying to get this rally on Wednesday and the bottoming tail on Tuesday and trying to build upon that, we're still seeing the Bitcoin risk model still in a risk-off environment. So we'd have to move, back into a risk-on environment and be able to get a legitimate breakout, and then see the Bitcoin trend begin to turn back to bullish if this is done. So we'll be watching for clues. Listen carefully. There still might be more work to be done if we try to move closer towards the support zone. We'll be watching, see if Tuesday's bottoming tail was it, or if we test these levels and go a little bit deeper. It's possible that our bottoming tail from Tuesday was it, because it did form little divergences here on a lot of the indicators. Right here, we have a higher low. We're still in negative territory. So if we could start seeing my oscillators go back into positive territory, then you might be able to turn this around if we can clear the 10 period. And again, we're testing the 20, which is just right directly overhead there. So again, you got to be able to clear that 20, clear the 10 here, get oscillators back into positive territory. We'll be looking for clues here. I am looking for a Bitcoin bottom, and I told you I thought it would bottom this week, and maybe we got that on Tuesday. Certainly possible if more work to be done. Again, I still think you're going to see a bottom this week, and maybe it's in now from the Tuesday low. Bullish divergences on my indicators on the oscillators here, but if we see divergences begin to play out here, if they're now playing out, we've got to see things turn back to bullish. Got to flip the cloud back to bullish. You got to see the signals turn back to bullish on Bitcoin and begin to validate a bottom. And we don't have that yet. So we'll be watching. Again, you got to get back above that 100,000 area if we're going to try to validate a bottom. To see everything flip back to bullish. And I talked about the seasonality for Bitcoin, and again, again, you tend to get the volatility here in January and February, but then you go on into March and you end up higher. Here's the period from January to March over here. We've had our volatility in January and February here. Here we had some volatility here in January. Again, I've talked about the negative seasonality between April and September. I think that you're going to see that happen again. I think we're going to rally up into late March or on into early April, and then I think you're going to have volatility. And if you look at these periods over the last 4 years, even in the downtrend or the uptrend, that's been the period where you've had the volatility. So I think we're going to see the rally into a March high, maybe on into early April. Over here it was a March high. Over here you had it, and then we went a little bit higher in April, and then we had more volatility here going sideways. Here you had the rally into March, and you had the April to September sell-off. Over here, again, you had the rally into March, and then you went a little bit higher in April, and you had the sell-off. So again, I think you're going to peak in late March on Bitcoin or on into early April. And again, it's likely going to be with the start of the tariffs that, again, we're going to see an inflation freakout. The CPI going higher in all likelihood, and you're going to have a bunch of tariffs beginning, and that's likely going to freak markets out about inflation. Well, the tariffs don't cause inflation. The markets believe that the tariffs do cause inflation. That's what's important. It's like they falsely believe that we're not going to have a recession, that we've had the soft landing, and it's simply not true. I happen to believe the recession indicators. Fed may not believe them, but I actually believe them. Been proven to be correct for decades. I believe them. And again, the Bitcoin weekly signals are still bullish. I believe we just have a pullback. The pullback I predicted, both the December peak and the January peak, has now happened. And again, I think we're wrapping up, and pullback is coming to a conclusion now here from the January high. I think we're about to see massive rebound to new highs as, again, coming to key support. And I think the weekly signals are suggesting that as well. My signals, which are correct, are still bullish in the weekly time frame. And so I remain bullish on Bitcoin. I think my weekly signals are suggesting that we're about to bottom here right now. Again, getting that higher low above the January low. We had it with the tariff low, coming back and testing that support zone, and I think we're about to bottom. Maybe there's a little bit more work to be done, but I think we're in a bottoming process, and it's possible that our bottoming tail from Tuesday might have been it. If we did bottom, we'll see if we try to play catch up with the S&P 500 and go make new all-time highs. S&P could pull back and Bitcoin could try to bottom out and play catch up. Weekly signals are still bullish for Bitcoin. Previously, I told you we might go back to the lower end of the rainbow cloud and find a bottom there. That's exactly what we did at the January low. The rainbow cloud is still bullish. Critical mass still bullish. The balance of power is still bullish for the bulls. So the bulls are in control in the weekly time frame. And while momentum is bearish and we're back testing our bull flag in the daily time frame, again, the bulls still are in control. So I think you got a good shot that we're going to, again, have this higher low form, maybe with the tariff low there, or end up going a little bit lower. But I think that we're going to get this higher low, and maybe it's done now with our tariff sell-off low there, and we've got another higher low, as I've talked about at great length of detail. And then I think we're going higher. But the signals remain bullish in the weekly time frame. No denying that.